Sorry about that. We missed the first bit of introduction there. Okay, so the general setup for this, it can be done with a belt, and many people favor the belt. I do promise you I'm going to improve the camera in due course and get a better camera sorted out. Slightly ironic coming from a photographer. I haven't got a decent camera for the computer. So if you've got the belt, you're not sure about this, it's not that difficult. But the belt is there to enable the opening of the groins. So it's a sort of passive opening of the groins. So the belt comes around the top of the sacrum, right? The posterior iliac crest, where those two bones are sticking out at the top of your sacrum. You want the belt to be positioned there, and definitely not into your lumbar spine. Not into your lumbar spine, okay? Reason being is that you'll just exaggerate too much the lumbar. So, and then the belt goes around underneath the feet, soles of the feet come together. If you haven't got a belt, then just bring your feet together for now, okay? Neither too tight nor too loose, because as you recline, you'll find out if it's too loose, you just end up sitting up again and adjusting yourself. If it's too tight, you'll find your thighs being drawn open too powerfully, likely to be uncomfortable after a minute or so. Yeah. Now, as you recline back, if you're using blocks, don't sit on the blocks, just sit off of the blocks so that you're on the floor. Or if you've got a blanket, don't sit on the blanket. Okay, and keeping your body straight in line between the pelvis, you're going to lie back over the blocks or the bolster or the blanket, whatever you have there. And take your elbows out to the side, yeah? So the arms come out to the side, palms of the hands facing up, and the head resting on something. The head can be slightly higher than the level of the chest, that's fine. And I really want you just to yield over the surface that you're on as much as you can. Letting the awareness fall into the body just as the weight of the body falls down onto the ground. So you're in a passive resting position. Awareness of the surface of the body. Sensations of on the surface of the body in terms of the clothes touching the skin, for example. Just draw your awareness down. So we're going to be very specific, or more specific, with the awareness training, as it were, in the first part of the class, just to be a little bit more focused on sensations in the body, so that we begin to let the energy draw into what we're doing and gather up into what we're doing in the class here. And then as time goes on, we can just let our awareness roam around the body a bit more freely, a bit more expansively, being attentive to what's going on in the body. So just take a moment to tune into yourself. If you're not already well tuned into yourself, just turn your attention inwards for a moment. Noticing your mood, your general state of well-being. So the day that we've been living today, no doubt, some of us have been very active. There tends to be an accumulation of energy throughout the day, mental and physical energy that sort of builds up in the body, and it can manifest as a bit of restlessness on the surface. So as practice goes on today, this evening, we'll probably find that dispelling a little bit, become more centered into our experience. So letting go of plans and projects and lists of things to do, coming into this space as much as we can. An awareness of the mind and the body. awareness of the floor beneath you and the shape that your body is in. And awareness now of the breath, noticing the gentle rhythm of the breath. We're going to work with the breath a little more deliberately in a moment, but for now, just becoming aware of the breath as it is, however it is. Its most obvious manifestations in the body. So this is where we bring in elements of meditation into our yoga. This is in a broad sense, this is the anapanasati, so the mindfulness of the breath. Very, very ancient practice and a very stabilizing practice. To come back to the breath is really essential. And we'll be doing this throughout our practice today, working a bit more with the diaphragm in the postures, which energizes the practice as well as calms the nervous system. So I'd like you now to begin to elongate the breath, focusing on the in-breath, descending down into the belly. So there's a definite and clear sense of expansiveness in the belly and the sides of the body as well. So it's like a forward and lateral expansion as you breathe in. And as you breathe out from where you've just finished breathing in, i.e. the belly. And you let the breath complete itself. And we're not overly contriving the in-breath or the out-breath, just trying to build up a rhythm. So we're bringing a bit more energy into the breath, but we're not trying to force the pace of the breath. Preferably breathing in and out through the nose so that we warm the air, clean the air. And as it goes out the body through the nose, we don't lose too much body heat. So there's a kind of a physiological logic to breathing in and out through the nose. We maintain our body heat. I just want you to keep on extending the breath like that, gradually building the breath up so that you come to the sort of highest point of in-breath that you can manage without forcing. And then a full, clear out breath. And we're just going to exaggerate the exhalation just a little bit so that on the last part of the out breath, we're bringing the navel in slightly towards the lower spine. So as it were, sort of pushing out very slightly the last bit of air. And then breathing in, complete breath to the belly. We're going to do this 6 more times. And each breath centers us a little bit more, brings us more into the present experience. Still point of practice. A few more breaths. So the nature and invitation, just explore your practice. Even though I'm giving clear instructions, it's always the invitation is there implicitly to explore your practice, make adjustments as you need to, refine your practice. Okay, we're going to roll now to the right side. That's the way we'll come out of this. If you've got the belt on, might be slightly awkward, but do what you can to not just sit up. So roll onto your side, slip your belt off. And then we're going to come onto all fours. Slowly coming round to all fours. You'll find that most of the transitions we do tonight make fairly logical sense as we move between the postures. Your blocks to one side, out the way. We're not going to really use many props until later on in the session, other than the belt. Placing the hands beneath the shoulders on the floor, spread the fingers, place the hands and the feet on the floor. Feet the same distance as your pelvis. And you'll notice that if you just relax and do nothing, your belly will drop down and you'll slightly emphasize the lumbar curve. Yeah? So if you don't do anything, you'll find your belly just drops down and your lumbar drops down. So that's the weight of your abdominal organs. Yeah? So I just want you to bring your belly back in a little bit so that you don't allow the lumbar to sink to the floor like that. Keep your hands and feet grounded just for the moment. Connect with the breath. And we're going to try and keep a rhythm to the breath that's long and smooth and steady, okay? As much as possible without forcing the breath. And we're going to extend out now to the front of us, the right hand, and the left foot goes back. So right hand extends forwards, left foot goes back and down, okay? And then extending the opposite side, same way, reaching out and down. Incredibly simple movement. Extending the arm forward, leg back and down. Okay. So it does help sometimes to connect the breath to the movement, just for the sake of building up awareness in the practice. To have those two elements in your awareness does help. So the movement and the breath connecting. Extending out into space. So just avoid slumping the lumbar. Remember, we want to keep the belly drawn in slightly so that the spine maintains its length. Reaching out into space. Palm of the hand turned in as you lift the hand forwards. Okay. Palm of the hand turned in. Next time you extend the left hand forwards and the right foot back, just maintain the posture. Looking down to the floor. Keep the gaze grounded on the floor. Arm lifted slightly higher than the shoulder now. Leg lifted slightly higher than the pelvis. Keeping the belly lifted up still. And release. And transition to the other side. Opposite arm, opposite leg. Reaching out into space. Gazing to the floor. So we can practice this element of yoga known as the drishti, which is the gaze. The gaze is partially internal, partially external. Yeah? So you're aware of the space around you. You're also aware of the inner dimension of the practice. Leg a bit higher than the pelvis, arm a bit higher than the shoulder. Belly drawn back in and down. Back onto all fours for a moment. Just re-clarifying this thing of drawing the belly back in, keeping the spine long. Feet, knees grounded. You're just going to slide your right hand slightly to the middle of the chest on the floor. Left arm extends out at the height of the shoulder and you rotate. You won't rotate very much, but there is rotation of the spine. Yep. Exhale, come down. Try to get a sense of the movement from the spine itself, particularly the thoracic spine. Okay, so we're not so much emphasizing pulling the shoulder up, but much more rotating the trunk along the axis of the spine. If it helps, you can follow the gaze one side, watch the hand as it goes up. You really get a sense of your body working against gravity here. So realize the force that's pulling us down mechanically. Yeah. So rotating, keep a smooth, steady movement from left to right. So we're not hesitating halfway, not pausing halfway. all the time focusing on rotating around the spinal axis. So you're lengthening and rotating. Just do this one more time on each side. Has its own demand. To the right side. And then we're going to sit back now onto our heels or between our heels onto the floor. If you need a block or a blanket, that's fine. You can do that as well. Okay. So just sitting straight back, knees together or slightly apart, depending upon whether you've got a block or not. Extend your arms out to the side at the height of the shoulders and just begin to make small circles, simple circles from the shoulders. So the origin of the movement and the awareness are from the shoulders rather than from the hands. One way, and then we're going to go the other way. Just rotating. Yeah, I'm just going to make those circles a little bit bigger, whichever direction we're going in, not too fast. And then we're going to overlap, placing the right arm over the top of the left arm as high up as you can. So this is establishing the upper part of Garudasana. Okay, so you bring the arms over. And you're going to catch the hands together if you can. So bring in the left thumb, other way around, sorry, left fingertips to the right thumb. Okay, so you're crossing the forearms and bringing them together as much as you can. Okay, don't force this because it can be really painful to try and overemphasize this on your shoulders. Okay, so just let your body get used to this slowly. Even if you've already practiced it a lot, it can still be quite demanding. Yeah. Now take your awareness to the lower part of the shoulder blades, so sort of the southern tip of your shoulder blades. Okay, and I want you just to gently draw that space apart. So think about the lower part of the shoulder blades drawing open. So we create enough space there between the rhomboids, between the spine and the inner edge of the shoulder blade. Okay. And then we're going to gently raise the elbows whilst we keep the emphasis on widening the shoulder blades. So lifting the elbows up, but not lifting the shoulder blades up. Okay. Keep your attention on grounding the shoulder blades down. And just breathe into that space clearly between the shoulder blades. So invite your breath into the thoracic area, as it were. And 4 more breaths on this side. And then bring the elbows down and then undo the arms and extend the arms out to the side and return to making circles again with the shoulders. Progressively bigger circles, whichever way you're going doesn't really matter. And then we're going to overlap again, this time the other way around, okay? So we were left over right, I think before. Was it the other way around? I'm already confused. Just do it the other way. Okay. Don't lose touch with the awareness in the legs and the ground beneath you. So the posture works from the ground up. Even though we're focusing on the shoulders, we're still utilizing the ground. Okay, and the movement, the bounce, as it were, from the ground up. So keep your feet gently pressing into the floor, awareness in the legs. Squeezing the forearms together without causing yourself any discomfort in the shoulders. If it's too much, then don't go too forcefully into that. Broadening the base or the bottom of the shoulder blades out to the sides. Okay, so we're abducting, as it's called, the shoulder blades at the bottom. And then lifting gently the elbows and the forearms upwards without lifting the shoulder blades up. Okay, it's a very specific set of movements. Broadening the tip of the shoulder blade, raising the arms, breathing into the space between the shoulder blades and the spine. Okay, so like you're inviting your breath to go into areas that are quite habitually tight. And so this is not an area of the body that usually remains relaxed, and it's often quite a charged area of the body. So you probably feel that not only in the outer shoulders in terms of the deltoids, but also between the shoulder blades. 4 more breaths. Keeping the neck free and long, face relaxed. And we're going to release out of that for a moment. Extend the arms laterally. One more time, making circles with the arms from the shoulders. Other way. Seem to have great big long arms according to this camera. Okay, you're going to place your fingertips onto the tops of your shoulders for a moment, or near the tops of your shoulders if they can't reach, and then make circles again, coming forwards until we can bring the elbows together in front of us. Yeah, so big circles, scribing big circles with the elbows. And change direction. Go the other way. Again, bringing the elbows together. And release the arms down onto the floor, so the hands onto the floor. Okay. Just walk your knees back so that your knees are under the hips. We're going to relieve ourselves in a moment by coming into downward facing dog, but not just yet. So from here, just return to that position where you'll feel your belly dropping down. Naturally, gravity draws the force of the weight of the organs down. So just correct that by bringing the belly back in smoothly. Re-clarify the length in your spine and your neck. And I'm going to come into quarter dog. Okay, so quarter dog. We'll start with the right arm lifted. I'm going to take the right arm clean underneath the left arm out to the left side. We're going to use the left hand on the floor to support the body as you come down, twisting, resting the head down. Okay, one smooth movement into the pose. It's not technically a demanding pose, but it is demanding from the point of view of the thoracic twist because it really isolates the thoracic area. You've got the pelvis and the lumbar very stable, and the movement is coming from the thoracic area. Yeah. Long, smooth breath. So keep your awareness in the breath. Breath feeds the posture, energizes the posture. Being mindful of those two processes, the position of the body, sensations of the breath. Okay, bringing yourself up from that side, one smooth transition to the other side. Keeping the pelvis balanced in the middle. So just watch out for tendencies to throw the pelvis to one side. And then using the right hand with the elbow up, just to support your body weight. Head comes down on the side. Good. And then just encouraging yourself to breathe a bit more fully, despite the fact that there's restriction in the diaphragmatic movement. Yeah, so you're going to be restricted because of the position. Encourage the breath into that area, down into the diaphragm. Okay, we're going to release ourselves out, come back into our all fours position, spreading your fingers out on the floor, grounding the roots of the fingers, tucking your toes under. We're going to launch ourselves into the air, coming into the downward facing dog. Okay. As you come into downward facing dog, I'd like to encourage you to keep the neck long and the shoulders open and broad. Okay, so we have a way of instructing this pose. It's not the way that everybody necessarily wants to do it, but you can try this way because it encourages keeping the neck long and the energy doesn't get trapped between the neck and the shoulders. So rather than pulling the chin under towards the sternum, think about keeping your head slightly forwards, lengthening from the crown to the floor and broadening through your shoulder blades, just like we did when we were doing the Garudasana not long ago. So you're broadening the shoulder blades out, dropping the weight down to the bases of the fingers. Engage your legs. Think about the space between your navel and the pubic bone is lengthening, somewhat sides of the body lengthening, heels drawing towards the floor, smoothly engaging the thighs towards the thigh bones. And then we come back to our breath and we let our breath maintain the pose. Another 6 breaths. Okay, shifting your weight towards the hands, I'd like you to walk your feet forwards to the front of the mat. So we're going to walk, actually it's not the way I was originally going to do this, but I am now. Once you've got the feet parallel to the front, keep a space between your feet and allow the head trunk to sink down towards the legs for a moment. So you're moving into an inversion temporarily, releasing the crown. Keep the knees slightly bent. If you can take the hands onto the floor, that's better. And just release the knees as much as you need to allow that to happen. Okay, then we're going to sink the pelvis down towards the floor, bending the knees quite deeply. As we go down, we're going to take the hands and arms around the fronts of the knees and the shins, just loosely hugging ourselves. Now, if you find that tricky, you can place something underneath the heels, of course, a blanket or something. So as you descend through the hip, put the weight down through the feet. At the same time, lift the chest up. So you're drawing through the spine to lengthen the trunk up again. Okay, so we're dropping the pelvis down, but we're raising the heart center and the chest up. Okay, from here we're going to press up, coming up to Utkatasana, chair pose, lifting the arms up, pushing up. To move back a bit more. And then step your left leg back. But not going to work. Turn myself that way. I must take this camera sorted out. Sorry about this, folks. Okay, so left foot back, right foot forwards. We're facing towards the front edge of the mat. We've got the back foot turned in about 45 degrees, front foot facing forwards. Okay. Build up your awareness from the periphery of the body. So become aware of the feet, become aware of the hands, Gently pressing the feet into the floor, grounding the four corners of the feet and engaging the thighs. So let the energy move into the posture from the outside back in towards the center. Okay, from the feet, through the legs to the trunk, hands through the arms to the shoulders. Reach out and take the hands back behind you and interlock the fingers. So we're going to keep the arms extended and drawing downwards and back away from the spine. Taking the hands away back. And with the same awareness in the legs, the same energy, we're going to move forwards, tipping from the pelvis, keeping the spine long. First of all, bringing the body parallel to the floor, keeping the spine long. Okay. But only if you feel, fairly comfortable with the way the posture is going, you can extend further and come down more deeply into the pose. Trying to keep your movement all the way from the pelvis until your belly virtually touches the thigh, and then you can allow the spine to round a bit more. Lifting the arms up high. Connecting to the breathing again. So come back to the breath. If you've lost touch with the breath, or if it gets difficult to breathe freely, just back off out of the pose a little bit. Okay, pressing through your front foot, bend your front knee, and come up on an in-breath all the way up, releasing the arms out to the side for a moment, stepping back to the front of the mat. Raise the arms up to the sky, palms facing in. On the exhale, you're going to lower yourself down through Utkatasana, all the way down, hugging the fronts of the knees and the shins again. Okay. Chest is elevated, even as we drop the weight of the pelvis down. Once again, Utkatasana in reverse, raising the arms up, lifting the pelvis, coming up, stepping the right foot back, interlocking the fingers behind you, nice and closely at the roots, so the palms of the hands virtually come together. Re-clarify the length in your spine, re-clarify the engagement of your legs, so pressing the feet down. So you let yourself really play with the floor and the ground through the legs. You let the legs do the work for you through the posture. Okay, not too wide a stance, hopefully. Keep grounding through the back leg especially. You're going to tip forwards over the pelvis, navel, pubic bone, keeping in the center. Come halfway to the parallel position. Raise the hands a bit higher. Now, if you feel you want to, you can come a bit more deeply into the pose, but don't force yourself down into this. Yeah. Can you breathe freely? That's a question you should have there. Gazing towards the toes, so you keep the neck long, throat open, spine lengthening, until you've got the belly on the thigh. Then you can, if you want, down. Pressing through the front foot, inhale, come all the way back up again. One smooth movement, releasing the arms to the side, stepping forwards. Next in-breath, raise the hands above you, palms of the hands looking in towards each other. Exhaling, bending the knees from Utkatasana down to the floor. Wrap the arms around the fronts of the thighs again, keeping the chest lifted, neck long. And then Utkatasana in reverse. So the chair pose starts off low, comes up higher. And then we're going to step our foot back again. So the left foot comes back, right foot forwards. Grounding the attention once again through the feet. Extend your hands forwards, sideways, around the back. This time coming into reverse namaste, as it's sometimes called. Bringing the palms of the hands together. If you can't easily get the palms of the hands together, then just think about taking the forearms Okay, so it's not so intense on the wrists and the shoulders. So if you've got the palms of the hands together, think about the medial line of the hand pressing gently into the spine. So you get a slight lift of the chest as you do that, okay? So as you bring the hands closer into the spine, you get a slight lift of the chest, expanding through the front of the body. And from there, we're going to extend forwards again, tipping from the pelvis, keeping the throat open, spine long. All the while we're aware of our feet, aware of our legs. Keeping the shoulder blades moving away from the neck long. Don't trap the energy in the neck and the shoulders. Okay, so keep open and keep opening. Grounding the legs, which engages the bandhas, especially through the feet and the hands. Bend your front knees slightly, press down through your front foot firmly. Inhale, come back up, release the arms for a moment out to the sides and step forwards. Palms of the hands together in Namaste for a moment. Stepping your opposite foot back. Again, bringing the hands forwards, out to the side and together, if that's the method that you're practicing. Okay. Otherwise, taking the forearms is absolutely fine. You don't have to force yourself into this. There should be no pain involved. Maybe slight discomfort, but not pain. The ulnar side of the hand, so that's the inner side, small finger side of the hand, pressing into the spine gently to lift the heart center up. Ground your feet firmly, engage your thighs, okay? With full awareness, you're going to go forwards. From where the movement's happening, keep your awareness there. Coming parallel to the floor, or if you're a bit more practiced, you might want to lengthen forwards more, keeping the throat open all the way down. Looking good on the screen. Okay, bending your front knee slightly, press down through your front foot on an in-breath. Use the in-breath to carry you back up. Release the arms out to the side and step forwards again. Back into Namaste for a moment. Just take a still point for a moment in the standing position, dropping the weight down through the feet. The body descends through the feet into the ground. And then you get that gentle lift once again, coming from the ground back up through the body. Okay, so there's a descending and then a lengthening through the body. Each one of the bones separating itself gently from the next one, including the spine, the vertebra. Laterally broadening through the body as well. This might be quite a subtle set of movements, but just think about this imaginative lateral expansion through the body as well. So like the ribs moving away from the sternum slightly, away from the spine slightly. The appendicular part of the body, that's the lateral hips and the shoulder girdle and the arms and the legs broadening. With your next in-breath, let the arms float out to the side and above you, above the shoulders, palms of the hands coming together. Looking up, out breath, folding forwards onto the all fours position again. Okay. So from here, we're going to turn out to the side. We're going to do the simple form of Vasisthasana, or the side plank to start with. So you want to position your hand slightly forwards of your shoulder so that it's angled. Okay, so it's not directly underneath the shoulder, but further forwards than your shoulder, so you've got the arm sort of angled. Spread your fingers. Plant your back foot on the floor. You're going to turn to the side and extend. So I've got right hand down, left arm extends up. So we come into a side position. Okay. So if the body was situated between a couple of panes of glass. So everything is in line. Grounding the back foot, lengthening through the spine again, keeping your awareness in the leg. Pressing away from the floor. And just exploring the idea of becoming broader through the body laterally. So from hand to hand, shoulder to shoulder. And we let that hand come all the way down to the floor again. And then we're going to make one simple, smooth transition to the other side. So this time the left hand forwards, supporting us, right foot back. Put the whole foot on the floor, that's better. Knee in line with the hip in line with the shoulder. Extending up, again, exploring this lateral expansion through the body. So the clavicles moving away from the sternum. Arms drawing out of the shoulder joint slightly. Breathing smoothly, steadily. So it's the breath sustaining the posture. Yep. Okay, and releasing the hands down. Looks to me like some of you are doing the more advanced form of Vajrayana. That's good because you're going to be doing it again. So we're going to repeat the pose. Okay, coming back into the all fours position. Find that position again where the belly is not sinking down to the floor. Draw the belly in gently. Okay, extend one leg back straight. So you're going to make the body quite firm now through the length of the body. And then the opposite leg back straight. So you come into the high plank position. Okay, high plank position. So this is where we don't want to feel the lumbar spine sagging down, especially. So we want to keep the belly drawn in, which means engaging the abdominal region. Same time, breathing through the pose. Keeping the neck long. And release the knees down to the floor. Bring your palms together on the floor. Forearms come down onto the floor. Palms of the hands come together and the elbows slightly wider than your shoulders. Okay. You can also place your hands down on the floor if you want to. There's no one way to do the dolphin pose, but I prefer to keep the hands together myself. Tuck your toes under. Think about as you come up, you're going to maintain the shoulder. The shoulders are going to be broad, laterally, open, and the neck is going to be long. Okay, so we'll let the neck draw out and down. Lift the pelvis. You can walk the feet in slightly if you need to. And then look for height. So lifting the pelvis. Drop the weight down through the forearms, but press back out through the forearms and the hands to the shoulders. Okay. So they're active. You're not collapsing down here. You want to keep the shoulder blades, the same action through the shoulder blades, broadening and descending. All right, shift your weight forwards for a moment. So you come forwards, keeping the pelvis lifted. Head comes forwards as if you're kissing your fingertips, coming down once and pressing back up again. And then release the knees down. We're going to come into child pose for a moment. So sitting back in a full classical child pose. Releasing for a moment for the space of 10 breaths. Practicing letting go of the effort for a moment. Letting go of the muscular effort, the mental effort. It's connecting with the thread of the breath. So if the awareness is threatening to drift somewhere else, we come back to the breath. The thread of the breath is the constant. It's the base of the practice. Okay, then we're going to come back into the full side plank. So maybe you didn't see what I was doing before, but my legs were hidden. So sorry about that. I'm going to come back again with the right hand forwards, making a long line out of your body. It's important to have alignment in this pose. So we're not throwing the pelvis back out or forwards, but keep everything as if situated between two panes of glass. Yeah? So you've got this alignment through the joints. Okay, and then it's up to you what you do with your head. I would suggest keeping the gaze down or out to the side, not necessarily looking up. It's quite demanding, okay? And then one way or another, you're going to adjust your leg out so that both legs are lifted and straight and working and extended, okay? So if you've got the left leg back, the right foot can tuck over it. So the foot slightly turned up. Support yourself in the midsection, raise the arm. 5 breaths. Be aware of the periphery of the body, the hands and the feet remain active. And release the lower knee down. Okay, so we make a transition. Start from downward facing dog. And then we'll come into the other side from downward facing dog. So slipping your left hand forwards, turning to the side. Left leg hooks over the right leg, so my body is lifted. My joints are in line. Right arm raising to the sky, broadening through the trunk, lengthening through the spine. Okay, very good. Release your lower knee down. I'm going to come around into the positioning for downward facing dog one more time. Lifting the pelvis, the classical downward facing dog. Grounding the hands, grounding the feet. Breathing through the spine. Long, smooth, steady breath, as much as that can be developed and maintained. Okay, releasing the knees down to the floor. I'd like you to sit down and slide your legs forward so your legs come in front of you. To Dandasana. So the fingertips will come onto the floor and slide the hands back just behind the shoulders slightly. with the fingertips on the floor and the legs extended and active in front of you. Okay. You're going to draw your chest forwards a little bit, and then draw the chin forwards and let the chin drop down towards the sternum. So you look down towards the pubic area. Okay, so the chin comes forwards like a draw, drops down. And we keep lifting through the upper body, through the spine. Okay, sliding the hands back a bit further still. I'd like you to rest the hands right back on the floor. Keep lifting the chest now. So you're going to rest the weight back, lift the heart center. And then either with the heels on the floor or pressing the toes towards the floor, we're going to come into the reverse plank. So lifting up, but you can choose not to press the feet right down to the floor if you want. Lift up the midsection, high as you can, activate the whole body. The head, tend to say keep that forwards, but if you're a bit more practiced, you can draw it back. As long as you're not cutting the breath off in the pose. As long as you don't feel like you're slicing the breath off somewhere or cutting the energy off somewhere. Keep lifting for another 4 breaths. So engage in the midsection. It's a whole body pose, a very powerful. Not only is it a back bend, it's a very integrating practice for the whole length of the body, all the postural muscles. And release down onto the floor. Extend your arms up to the sky. One smooth movement with your knees lifted and slightly bent. Tip forwards from the pelvis until your trunk comes onto the legs. And then work to extend your legs a little bit more out if you can. Okay, pressing the knees down gently, not forcefully, just gently. So in keeping the body engaged along the length of the body through the spine and through the legs, will avoid a tendency to double up too much in the middle of the body at the lower spine. So we're emphasizing here the energetic lengthening through the body. Folding as much as you can into the legs without pulling yourself forwards, okay? And we're going to stay here for 6 breaths. Smooth, steady, long breaths. Okay, head lifting, and then the chest lifting, and then the whole spine lifting up. I'd like you now just to make sure your belt is handy. Then we're going to come into Sukhasana or Svastisthana. Any pose that's seated that allows you to have the spine relatively straight. It doesn't really matter. And you can use a block if you want to sit on as well, which I always do, this type of pose. Because we're focusing on the shoulders, so it doesn't really matter too much that we're not making exertions to sit on the floor. So whatever belt you have, just make sure it's undone. And the way we practice this is to have the belt coming in between the crease of the thumb and the index finger. Okay, so rather than, probably can't really see me very clearly from this sort of distance, but rather than making a tight fist out of it, just take it between the thumb and the lower base of the index finger like that, so it's not really gripped. Okay, straighten the arms out and bring them towards the knees with the belt between the thumb and index finger. Just re-clarify this length in the spine for a moment. Okay, and the hands are a bit wider than the shoulders. They're going to get wider as we do the next part. So you're going to create a bit of tension with the belt by drawing the hands apart. Lift up one smooth movement. We're going to see if we can draw back. So we'll need to take the hands wider to achieve that. I'm going to try not to force the chest out into space. So we keep the heart center resting into the body, so we don't compensate by curving the spine back. Okay. We're going to see if we can draw the belt all the way down and back towards the lumbar. Just touching the lumbar lightly. Once we touch the lumbar, we bounce back up. One smooth movement all the way down and forwards. Okay, then we let go of the belt and take the hands to the center. And then we slide them out again, slightly wider than the shoulders. Same thing again. One smooth movement up. Drawing it back. Just open the hands as wide as you need to allow the drawing back to happen. Okay, no need to go too wide. So we're going to create a certain amount of tension there. Lifting up, because you find this activates the shoulders and the chest, the upper chest, the fibers of the chest. Yeah. Do that 4 more times at your own pace, your own working. Okay, smooth movements. Try not to hesitate when we get up the top, thinking, "Oh no, this is tight," that kind of thing. Just sort of let yourself move back. Smooth movement. Yeah. It will be tight. Some cases it will be really tight. Okay. And that's what we're here to work with. We're here to gradually, layer by layer, stage by stage, work through these many layers of tension. Where there's tension, there's some kind of blockage of energy. Something's not moving. Okay. So as yogis, yoginis, we're working to release that tension, to free the energy. That's what we're interested in. Don't hold the breath in the body. Let the breath move. Okay. Back to the center this time. Slight change of dynamics. So as we inhale, raise the belt up. Okay, keeping that sort of distance, we're going to drop the left hand down to the side of the left hip. And I'm still creating tension here between the hands and the belt. And then we're going to take that left hand and draw it back. Not letting it stray too far away from the side of the body, but going back. Upper arm extends up. So we're creating this asymmetrical stretch through the trunk and the shoulders. Lengthening and lengthening and lengthening a bit more. Making sure that we can breathe freely. And then we're going to change to the other side by coming up. Right hand comes into the right hip, still creating that sense of tension between the hands. And the right hand draws back, even as the left hand extends up. Mindful of the position of the trunk, so keep the trunk centered. Awareness in the whole body. Few more breaths. Hands come back up one last time above the head. And then we release down. So we are very well prepared for shoulder stand. Although I'm aware that some people might not want to do it. This is one of those poses that I'd much rather be instructing in the presence, physical presence of people. Not online, but anyway, I'm assuming that most of us are okay with the technical part of this practice, but I'm going to just run through it quickly anyway. So we prefer to use blocks because blocks gives space for the cervical vertebra not to be compressed too much, and it allows us to lift a bit higher so that we can mobilize the pelvis and get a bit more height. So it has its benefits. I'm not going to insist that everybody uses these, but it does have its benefits, and also it saves us from crashing weight down into the neck in an unhelpful way, which can happen sometimes if we're not aware. So what I do is I put the blocks down. Not just what I do, probably what millions of people do. But you fold the yoga mat over the top like that. I never really recommend using a blanket on the blocks for a shoulder stand, just because you'll end up with traction and the elbows sliding out. That's not helpful for this pose. You really need stability in the arms and the shoulder position for this pose, because you're putting the weight above the neck. Yeah. So use your mat much more. If it were a beginner's class, we might be using belts. Well, I don't think we're beginners here. So we'll do this without belts this time. Then position the tops of your shoulders to the edge, almost the edge of the mat, but not quite. So leave a few centimeters between where you position the shoulders and the end of the blocks so that you don't roll off. Okay. Here's where it's going to get virtually impossible on instruct online. We all have to get 2 meter wide tellies, I think. And then you want to come up into something that looks like the bridge pose. So you're elevating the pelvis and tucking the shoulders under. Really important to adjust the shoulders under, because that brings you more onto the tops of the shoulders. Okay. And then from there, if you want to do this, you can come up. And if you don't, in a moment, I'll just show you an alternative. Yeah? Now, I'm trying to instruct you on a microphone, and I can't even see you. So if you're not sure about this, please just watch, okay? And then we'll see what happens after. And then you're lifting above. So the idea here is to get the weight to fall onto the shoulders and not the neck, okay? You don't want the weight coming into the neck because the neck isn't really a sufficient support for the pose. So there should be a space between the neck, not discomfort in the neck. If there's discomfort in the neck, pose isn't set up properly, or the shoulders are still too tight, okay? So try that for a while. You can do half shoulder stand as well, keeping the legs drawn down slightly, pelvis drawn back. Great pose. Eventually, you'll bring the feet down, come into plow pose. So I have to sit there and watch now to make sure. So really, the really main thing to watch is that you're elevating and lifting the pelvis out of the shoulders, and you're not allowing the weight to crash into the neck. The weight coming into the neck too much. If you really don't want to do shoulder stand at all, what I was going to say is just place a blanket under the pelvis and lift the legs up. And just elevate the legs. You can even do that against the wall if you want to. Another 8 breaths if you're in the inversion. Okay. See if you can refine the pose in some way in the last few breaths. And as you come out of the posture, you're going to come out as refined as you can. So lowering the knees down towards the forehead, extending the feet back if you can do that. If not, come down in a more gentle way, the back supported. And to come out of the pose, it's always a good idea to lie back with the chest slightly elevated for a few moments. More as an energetic counter pose rather than anything physical or mechanical. So I've somewhat closing the chest in. So we just open the chest up again for a few moments. And just assimilate that over the next 8 breaths, 9 breaths. I plan to come up into sitting meditation for a short while. And then after that, I'd like you to go into Shavasana. There won't be long if you're going into meditation. So we'll do a very brief period of sitting. So adopt any posture you want. Sitting posture that's comfortable. And then bring yourself into a space of stillness. And let awareness fall back into the body, just as the weight of the body falls down onto the ground. So awareness is descending down and covering you like a large blanket. So we just allow the fruits of the practice that we've just done to now come into this practice, bleeding into the seated practice. And what we're going to do here is draw our attention gradually to the breath, and specifically in the body. And just noticing the quality of the breath, the length of the breath. So the very first stages of the classical mindfulness of breathing practice start off with an awareness of the length of the breath. And then getting slowly a sense of the whole body breathing, as if you were breathing in and out through each pore of the body. And we're just breathing normally here, not trying to breathe in any way. There are certain qualities in this breath and in this practice which are purifying, calming, stilling. So they encourage those qualities to come out in us. Calming, purifying, stilling. We let this whole body breath bring a deeper sense of relaxation and rest through the body. And where there's relaxation through the body, there'll also be more in the mind. So the mind will be less agitated. Just letting your mind rest on the breath in the body for the last couple of minutes. So you have a choice now to just carry on meditating, seated, or coming into Shavasana, as you like. Okay. Leave the session there for now. Thank you, everybody. You'll have this recording tomorrow, okay?